Hello there. How are we? Do we have Lego Yoda? Sick. 2712 Terry Hayes. Beyond Belief. Hello. Susie S. Blood Sticker. Lend me a tenner. Douglas Costa. JB Sterling. Oops. Just jumped there. John Dawes. Coden. Mr. Mojo. JT. The Bristolian. They're still misrepresenting Bristolian. I really want to, try and give a bit of clarity here. There's still, I just watched, the last Globebusters thing, and there's a guy, Brian, there, who's talking from my position. And I'm a little bit disappointed that, if I'm the one that's bringing this topic into the discussion, why they would not engage with myself, why they would go through a second-hand point of information. I can only represent my position. The other aspect I want to get clarity on with this whole thing is that these people like Karen B and maybe Zach at Globebusters, they seem to be blaming me for people who come to my channel and then go to their channel or send them emails or whatever. Now, I've paused it at a part of their last that I'm seeing abuse directed at me in the chat. So what these people have to look at is look at their own glass house. Right? I am not responsible for the people in my chat box or people claiming to represent the position. I am not responsible, the same as Globebusters are not responsible for the people in their chat box or the people who claim to represent them. Right? I don't, again, to be very clear, I brought this to the discussion. The reason that I brought this to the discussion was because I never started from a presupposition of a stationary Earth or a globe Earth or any of these things. I came at this from addressing claims that came from globe Earth and from stationary Earth, and I look at reality and I see what reality has to show me. So this nonsense of the division, it's because people maybe be operating from ego for some reason, and I don't want to digress too much into the possibilities of their own ego, right? But it doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you not just reach out and have the discussion with me? Why would you opt for a second party, second-hand information who's trying to convey it? Just speak to me directly. Again, I don't have a horse in the race. I only have my reasoning, and my reasoning is supported by what the practical shows me in regards to other people's claims from a presupposed model. Now, the presupposed models in this regard are globe Earth and a stationary flat Earth. They are presuppositions, right? That you don't just start as a human being investigating the world from a presupposition of what you perceive the Earth to be. That's ridiculous. You ask questions about what reality actually is, for what reality actually is. No wandering out with a bias that you want to now interpret the world to fit your bias, which is the problem the globe Earth has, and now we see the problem that the stationary flat Earth has, because they won't let go of their presupposed bias, so they enter into gobbledygook land, right? So I mean, I paused it there and I'm looking, they've got, this is just to show an example that, look at your own glass house, right? And ask yourself why you're, avoiding the discussion with me directly. Because you can't keep blaming me, because I'm not throwing, insults and attacks at you. I'm attacking content, not the people. But, I look at, like we've got a Joe Mama, has a wrench in this Globebusters chat. Dell is part of the learning against learning team of liars. Truth mixed with lies to deceive, not to be trusted even a little. So, you've got somebody here who's misrepresenting me, attacking my character. Absolutely nothing to do with the content, but these people are blind to see what's going on in their own back garden. I hope this is a wake-up call for you to stop listening to second-hand information, stop being influenced by unknown trolls or unknown accounts. Go to the content creator and have the discussion with the content creator. Then there's clarity. Without all this mixed up signals and all this pepped up aggression and anxiety, there's no need for that. I'm an objective guy. You see how I conduct myself in reality. If people are well mannered and have respect, then the same is in return. when I get antagonistic trolls, you know, applying circular reasoning and run, and just, you know, causing frustration, then the frustration is going to boil over and I'm going to address that frustration in whatever way it comes out. So all this hiding behind, you know, fears, and it's nonsense. You know, Karen B, I sent Karen B an email because I watched Karen B the same, triggered, angry at me, blaming me for being divisive because other people are going to their chat boxes and sending them emails and I'm getting the blame of that. I'm not responsible for that, I'm sorry. And it's very fucking weak-minded for you to even think that I would be responsible for that. But Karen B's here. I think you guys are just desperate to have a model that does not align with religious texts or scripture. Again, portraying my character totally falsely. Again, I do not start from a presupposition, whether it be, you know, from scripture or anti-scripture or any of these things. I have no horse in any of those races. They do not interest me whatsoever. I'm only interested in the objective reality. I'm only interested in claims and reasoning that are supported by practicality. That's it. That method for me eradicates persons, biases, beliefs. I'm not interested in any of them. So just to be clear, I did not bring this from a presupposition. I brought this from the presupposition of a globe and a presupposition of stationary flat earthers making claims. Okay? So this is not like a three-horse race, people's opinion and idea. No. This is based solely on claims being made and contradictions being shown through practicality. End of story. So again, the olive branch is there. If any of these people would like to have the discussion with the horse, then I'm up for that discussion. Again, you know, like Zach had a realisation that talking about when objects are let go, that I'm talking about it being a deceleration, and that intrigued him, which again shows me that Zach's reacted without actually fully comprehending my position, probably being influenced by antagonists, and then took those antagonists as somehow being representative of me and hand-wave dismissed what I'm actually talking about. So there's an opportunity here for people to see through that kind of bollocks. If you want to talk about a community, and I don't mean community as in, you know, let's talk about our favourite colour and try and outdo each other for our stature. You know, what's the weather like? You know, I'm not interested in that type of community. If you're talking about people with reasoned logic who can articulate their positions, and we can have to and fro's, and we can lay things out on the table, and we can ask questions, and what's the possibilities? Is there predictions that can be made? Is there things that we can test? You know, that's the type of production that I'm after. No, me getting the blame, I'm divisive because I bring something to the table. That's just everybody's knee-jerk reaction. I'm not responsible for that. So, if you want to have a community, you have to see past, you know, second-hand information from fake, faceless accounts in chat boxes or comment sections or through emails. If somebody's telling me something that somebody else has said or done in regards to me or a particular topic, I don't take what that person has said. I go straight to the content creator and I actually see what they're offering. So I hope that's clear. And, you know, my contempt and whatever else is because I'm sick and tired of having to wade through this garbage. I'm sick and tired of being attacked, misrepresented, barefaced lies being told about me. Do you not think in your capacity, be in my position, what it's like to be constantly attacked like that? Of course your back's going to be up. Do you want me just to cower and roll over and go, poor me? That's not who I am. So if you can't handle who I am, that's fine. Admit that to yourself, but don't sit there and misrepresent me in your own mind. And even worse, go and try and misrepresent me to other people based on your insecure perceptions of me. I have stood firm the whole way with this. It's always been about the practical. Every step that I've ever taken has been based on the practical. This is no different. So these people now who think that there's a three-horse race, Oh, Dell's putting these upward rise in earth in the pot. No, 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 no. Dell's position is a conclusion based on the practical. Dell's is a position based on claims being made about our objective reality and seeing the contradictions in these claims. That brings me to the position that I'm at right now, where there is no other avenue for me to go. The electrostatic magnetism thing, I do not omit it altogether, like these people would try and portray that I do. What I'm saying is that it's not responsible for the vector, it's not responsible for the motion of buoyancy and density or sorting them, it's not responsible for the ceasing of the motion of buoyancy and density in freefall, it's not responsible for magically accelerating gas and liquid with no displacement occurring. But it has its place. This realm has motion, it has static, it has magnetism, right? But we have to identify what the role is within this realm. Not just magnetism and electricity, answers everything. Or motion answers everything. There's components. At the root of these things is motion. But the components of electrostatics, magnetism, play a role here. Again, we don't know what holds matter together, what gives matter its form. There's a static charge in the air. There's a static charge to objects and materials. These are things that I accept. But in the minds of these people, they seem to think that I'm totally hand-wave dismissing these things. No, I'm hand-wave dismissing it in regards to the topic that I am on, where it doesn't give me the direction, it doesn't account for these things that I've just listed. That's the problem. And again, I can have that discussion. But it's difficult to have the discussion when people are not paying attention to the content creator, hearing what they want to hear, and then trying to present it based on hearsay or their faulty comprehension of what's being presented. That doesn't do me any justice, it doesn't do you any justice, and it doesn't do the onlooker any justice. It just creates a confusing melting pot. So, again, if you want to discuss this topic, reach out to me. I'll be willing to have that discussion with you. Hope that's clear. It's no nice having to sit and listen to people misrepresent you. Again, these people know how it feels when the shoe's on the other foot. But yet they become so blinded to their own action. Everybody acting like I'm some sort of ogre or demon and I'm to be treated as some sort of subhuman demon. Who the fuck do you think you are? You do realise that's a form of abuse? And if that was happening in reality, you certainly wouldn't get away with it for any longer than 10 seconds because I would be right on you. So it's certainly not acceptable online either. Thanks, Marky, that's what I'm looking for. Again, these people talk about communities. Again, I'm not interested in the same old stature-based community, pissing contest, trying to impress each other, who's better than who, ego. I'm not interested in a community like that. A community of reasonable, rational, clear thinkers who can articulate and respond with articulated reason. That's a proper community. That's where progress happens. Not with people misrepresenting, defending a bias, this, that and the other. I'm not interested in any of that. People are looking at me that I'm the divisive. What you should be looking at is the content that I provided. There was no attacks to anybody. There was none of that. That all happened as a reaction to what I was presenting. And again, people never came to fully comprehend the position. They just heard little snippets from triggered zealots that don't like it. and they've formulated an image in their mind. Well, David, I'm a very passionate man, and I'm chill. As I say, when I meet real, genuine people, and you've seen me in the street, and it's people that may have a different, skewed perspective of their reality, but there's patience there, because these people are not trying to be deliberately obtuse or antagonistic or, you know, just being trolls. There's compassion there when I see people who are genuine, and their mind may be warped to how they perceive reality, but I still have patience and you know, give them that dignity and that respect. So I don't need to be directed to calm down. You know, if I'm annoyed for a good reason. I don't just fly off the handle for absolutely no reason whatsoever. So enough of that also. As adults, I don't need direction from another adult. In order for me to give another adult direction, I must be assuming that I'm some sort of superior being. Wind your neck in. It's these types of statements that cause conflict. Making these statements is assuming some sort of position of authority, and I don't bow to any authority, ever. I have no respect for any authority whatsoever. The only thing I have respect for is how an individual can convey themselves to me, how they articulate themselves to me, what manner they're conveying and articulating themselves to me, and that will be reciprocated. It's very, very simple. So I'm going to go through some of these tests. I'm going to talk now in regards to possibilities of what type of motion we could be looking at, right? And asking questions of what we would expect to see under certain conditions of certain motion. Mass attracts mass, John. So we're back to it's a big earth, and the big earth's attracting things to it. Well, again, there should be displacement of gas and liquids because you're still claiming acceleration. And this is the problem. If you start from a presupposition, if me and the rest of the human populace just arrived here on the earth with no influence about what the world was, we wouldn't have an expectation. We would ask questions about the world. We would go out and seek to find what the world actually was. But these types of people are born into a cult situation where they're filled with a presupposition, it's a globe. And now we've got other people, it's a stationary flat earth. These are presuppositions that you then start from, and then you address the phenomena in the world, and you're constantly trying to make what you're observing fit your presupposition. If you do that, you're going to end up at the same place as the globe and the stationary flat earthers. Because now you need a force, some mechanism that's making things go towards your earth. That would mean acceleration towards your earth. We have demonstrated what acceleration towards the earth actually looks like. That being that water displaces and air displaces and shows the direction of the acceleration. There is no acceleration detected in the downward vector. And this downward vector, it's not really a downward vector, it's an upward vector. Down is just the reaction or the secondary to the initial. Upward vector is the vector. Provably so. You exist in a reality right now where you look out and you see water displaced, that being horizontal. You have got an orientation to things, you've got a density layer, and you've got a pressure gradient. Okay? Now, if I take a sample of that water, put it in a vessel so that it's still flat, and I accelerate it up the way, the displacement remains the same. All I'm doing is adding to the already established vector. The reason that you can see that is because in that same vector, so I'm standing holding the beaker and something's going up and something's sinking. Now when I accelerate the whole thing up, that motion of up and down now increases. It gets faster. So I'm just adding to the already established vector, the upward thrust. That's all I'm doing. Yet when I change that vector in any other direction, we get an inversion. The water moves to the back and the air towards the front. In any direction. I can alter the vector. And there's displacement. But this displacement has already happened. And you can see that, as I say, accelerate a vessel up the way. The water stays level, but the motion of the buoyancy and density, its speed increases. These are testable things that you can see for yourself. So these people are not even stopping to recognise they're in a reality that has conditions already. The conditions have been set. Water's already displaced. There's a gradient. There's a buoyancy and density motion vector. There's a pressure gradient. It's already here. So you should be asking, well, how? And again, I can accelerate that even further by accelerating upwards, adding to the already upward thrust. It's very, very simple. What else did I want to talk about here before I get to talking about the possibilities of motion? So as I say, you know, there's something to be looking at in regards to electrostatics and magnetism. My issue is that they're not responsible for the things we're witnessing. Okay, and I don't see how they possibly could be, and that's the issue that I have. No, that I'm omitting, you know, the attributes or the effects of these things on matter, whatever that may be. I don't do that. Exactly, Natalie. I'm just ignoring these troll types. They're not interested in them. They're no good for any productive, you know, progress. Really not interested in them. Again, I'm more interested in people who can convey rationally and, you know, step by step practicality what their position actually is. And that's that then. There doesn't need to be personalities or any of that involved in it. It remains totally objective. Right, let's go to the whiteboard. So let's start here. Right. So let's start. So, you know, let's take a vessel, right? So now we're talking about we'll just say an enclosed vessel, right? And in this thing here, air is put in. So we'll give it the air is just going to fill the area equally, okay? And then we'll place another object in here. Right, so now we have this and we have air within it. So the air's equalised here on every wall and this object here. Now, the air has no direction here. Right? There is no gradient to the air in this regard. This object here has no direction. This object has no weight. It has nothing. So if this was now submerged in a fluid and we filled this completely with a fluid, right, we'll just say liquid water, right? So we're in three-dimensional space, we've created an enclosure and we fill this with water. So the water is now all equalised in here, right? And it's pressing here on this, you know, and every surface of this thing. Now, this thing is not going to be influenced to move in any particular direction. Nothing whatsoever. There is no vector to it, there is no motion, there is nothing. It's just a static example. Okay? Now if this was filled with water, and now I come along and I've got a platform that I push into motion, and I set that motion at a set 50 miles per hour, say. Right? Let me excuse that. I'm just using these numbers randomly just as an example. Now as that comes into contact with this solid object, we'll say it is, right? Now what happens is that there's a motion transfer felt through the body and everything within it. So what happens immediately is that there's a compression now in this direction, right? That's felt through this body, translated through the water and to this object. So now what starts to happen is this object begins what we would say sinking, right? Now before the contact of this was all static, right? Now that it's in contact, we've got this 50 miles per hour motion, which is causing a displacement. Now as that happens, that's going to sink. There's going to be a compression downwards of the fluid. Okay? And if we remove this, what we're going to see, if we remove the barrier, what we're going to see happen to water is that water now levels out like this. Okay? So now we've got a level surface because it's now displaced. Okay? This object now, as it comes into contact with that, is going to move until there's enough solid matter there that can resist it. Because right now, if it's there before the platform reaches it, it's surrounded by air. Now the air would be pushing up on it, but the air isn't solid enough to push it into the speed that the frame of reference is moving in. So it's going to be pushing slightly on it, but the object is stationary. It wants to remain stationary. That's its true inertia. Right? And then once it comes out to something solid, and it's now here, bang, now it has the directional vector, now it has something that can resist it. Okay? Now, this 50 miles per hour speed is the thing that's going to dictate the weight of that object. So that very same object, same mass, same volume, same surface area, if I now increase the rate of the reference frame to 150 miles an hour, at 50 miles per hour we could say, well, the object weighed 10 grams. I can't even write it. 10 grams, right? You know what I'm trying to say. At 50 miles an hour. If I then tweak that and I increase the rate to 150 miles an hour, this same mass is now going to have a different, what we call, weight to it. Okay? And as the reference frame continues moving at its set rate, it's going to continue its process of pushing on materials. The materials are going to have the opposite and equal reaction, and anything that's less dense than any other medium is going to be forced through that medium. If it's static, it's just going to remain static until something solid comes up and contacts it and puts it into motion. Now, if we're doing 150 miles an hour, this is now on the ground. Now I climb a ladder. We'll say the ladder's 5 miles tall, whatever. Now, I'm holding that object and I let that object go. That object, me, on the ladder, the whole earth, the whole reference frame is gone at 150 miles per hour. Now, if I'm here and I'm holding the same object and I let it go, the distance that there is here, right? Now when I let that go, it starts to lose its speed of 150 miles an hour. The air that's being pushed upwards cannot support it. So the air is trying to push it at the same rate that it's moving with the reference frame, but it cannot support it. This starts a process of deceleration, which is just acceleration, but it's getting slower. Right? The air's constantly pushing against it, but it cannot keep it at the speed that it was going at, so it loses its momentum. Now if I let it go from here, it only has that distance to lose the momentum over that distance. So the impact's going to be less than it is here, because it's got more time to lose its momentum. So the impact's going to be greater. Okay? So again, if we're in this air and I let that go and it starts the process of deceleration because the air can no longer support it and push up on it, if I then start increasing the viscosity of that air, right, what we call the rate of fall here, or the rate of deceleration, is going to be reduced, because now there's something more viscous that can push up on it, slowing the rate of deceleration down. And in this scenario, this is what's happening. Stationary earthers in their bias are witnessing these things and just having the interpretation that this thing is the thing that moves towards the earth. Okay, so let's move on to that. So, oh, draw it better. Oh shit. We've got a platform now that's stationary. Okay? And now we've got an object here above it, which is also stationary. Remember, stationary has no vector, has no direction, has no weight, has nothing. So, in this scenario, the only option you have is that this thing now must accelerate towards your stationary earth. Okay? Now you're going to need to factor in a causality for that, because you're claiming acceleration, you're claiming motion from a static position. You can't keep saying impulse or momentum. Momentum is a facet of something that's already in motion. So if I'm pushing a car and I let go of that car, it keeps rolling until it loses its momentum. If I'm rolling a ball across a line and you come along 90 degrees from me and kick that ball, that's an impulsive act upon it, changing its direction. Again, showing you that impulse and these things are attributes of motion. They are not the cause of motion. Impulse is a descriptor of a particular type of motion, not a cause. So now you need a cause for this to come here. This is where people start waffling about what this object has. Again, inanimate matter does not have the ability to move itself. So you're left with two things, a causality. You need a causality now for this to go. So people now are imagining some downward flow from above, right? Something that's happening from above us that's causing a downward flow, which is causing things to accelerate towards the earth. Okay? Now, again, when we have a vessel with liquid in it and air in it, and we move that vessel in any direction, we get a displacement. So if we accelerate in that direction, we get a displacement, so now the water will come to the back and the air will come to the front. If we go in that direction, we get the opposite. If we accelerate it, so if we've got a vessel here and the water here, and we now accelerate it down the way, what happens is we get an inversion where the water now moves up here and the air now here, pointing towards the direction of acceleration. This is provable, demonstrable. Go and accelerate something downwards right now with water in it and you will see that's exactly what happens. This is where now they want to invoke some downward flow or some force that can attach itself to the water. So in this sense it would be like this. So now we have the water here. So this force now attaches itself to the gas it attaches itself to the liquid, it attaches itself to the solid vessel, and now wants to accelerate them all down at the same rate so that no displacement occurs. Although we've shown that in conditions of acceleration that displacement occurs 100% of the time. If you're going to invoke that there's a downward force, something that's causing a flow downwards, there should be displacement of gas and liquids. If you're saying that's not the case, you're now in the realms of fantasy, and this is why I call it Harry Potter tractor beam physics. You're now invoking a force that can achieve what I've just highlighted to you. No human being witnesses a force like that. It's a preposterous proposition, a preposterous idea, notion, concept. There is no grounds for you to reason a force like that, other than to say, well, it could be and we just don't know. Well, it could be fucking invisible unicorns manifesting reality through their arse, using their imagination to manifest human beings and everything. But, well, it can be true because we just don't know. Or the other one, oh, well, we don't experience, I don't experience motion, my senses tells me it's stationary. Is that your reasoning now then, is it? Is this where we're going to go? Alright then, well, to your senses when you look along train tracks, they appear to do that, or a road. To your senses, that's how it appears to you. So, now what? We'll just accept that parallel lines converge because that's your visual experience. Or you apparently see a sun going down. That's my experience, it looks like it's going down. Well, according to these people, that's what should be accepted then. We should look no further. The fact of the matter is that you do experience it. Everything's displaced, water is level. There's a cause to why water is level. Okay? Back to the scenario again. If I'm doing a reference frame, static, and there's water here, and water has no form, it's just going to gather like that. Now when I put that into motion, the water now levels out. If we were to do a drop test, we would see that. If I'm up at high elevation, standing on a cliff, and I have a bottle with water in it, like so, when I'm holding up my taxi frame it's displaced. If I then shake that bottle up, spin it around, and then let it go immediately, the water's not going to level out like this. Doesn't level out like that. If somebody was standing on a ledge here beneath me, right, with their hand out, not only does the water not go back to being level again, but the orientation of the buoyancy and density vector and the motion of something rising and sinking ceases when I let that go. And that's going to remain the same until somebody here captures it. And immediately as soon as they capture that, bang, the water levels out again. The motion of buoyancy and density up and down now returns. Provable, demonstrable. Take a break from this just now. See where people are at. I've got more to add on that, I'm going to come back to it. So next I'm going to get to the possibilities of motion and asking questions about the possible motions. Okay. Hopefully what I'm showing here people can follow along quite easily. It's really simple. Well, we can talk about the sun and moon. You know, why the stationary earthers keep invoking a magical force for why things fall? Because they start from a presupposition about me. They're presupposing the earth stationary, so they're witnessing phenomena and then making assertions. Because in a stationary earth, it must be things that are accelerating towards the earth. There's no sign of acceleration. There's no displacement of gas and liquid. Buoyancy and density ceases to be in free fall. That the claims that they're making are demonstrably false, and they won't let go of the presupposition of a stationary earth, which is why they're fighting. This is the root of why they're fighting me. They see me as an attacker because they're defending their bias. They're not just objective reasoning people that have no bias. They're demonstrating that they have a bias. That's why they're attacking me and misrepresenting me. Because they start from the premise it's stationary, which by making that claim, that's why I said it is a claim, because by making that claim, your sub-claims to that must be that things accelerate towards a stationary earth. That there's no way for them to escape that. And then when I show displacement of gas and liquid, and that there is no displacement of gas and liquid, they're trying to get you to imagine that you can accelerate gas and liquid with no displacement occurring. Now I challenge you to go and see if you can achieve that. It's impossible. The only way that you can do it is up the way, adding to the already established upward vector, and you can see the results of that. So if you're standing holding a jar and you drop a weight in and it's sinking and there's an air bubble rising, and you accelerate it up the way, the rate of the thing sinking increases and the rate of the bubble rising increases because you're adding to the vector. You're increasing the rate of the vector. You can visually demonstrate these things to yourself 100% of the time. Nobody says that there isn't displacement. No, the demonstration shows there's no displacement. You're talking about a rotational globe, Ute. You need to break out of these things. We're not talking about globe models anymore. That's exactly it, Dean, and I keep saying it. You know, the cause of the buoyancy and density, the vector is there, and you can manipulate it by increasing the rate upward that you push it. Not only that, you can invert it and actually accelerate it down the way, and you'll just get a reversal. So if you're holding something and you accelerate it up, the air bubble rises quicker, the dense object sinks quicker. Now if you take it up to height and you accelerate it down the way, the water moves to the top of the bottle, the air to the bottom, and now your bubble now goes down the way and your sinking thing now goes up the way as you accelerate it down. And the faster you accelerate it, again shows you that the rate of that motion is increased. In any vector, any direction you want, you can recreate it. All this other stuff, you know, the stationary, non-demonstrable forces in the globe, they're not demonstrable. We're talking about practicality here and what practical shows you. So let's talk about upward motion and what we're actually talking about, right? Because this is the problem that people have when you say upward motion. Right, so let me get rid of this. Now, people see me drawing these things, right? And I'll draw this and I'll say, alright, so I'll get a reference frame now, right, that's moving upwards. But when I say upwards, that's relative to us within it. Because us within it are standing here and we have our direction, which is the opposite, right? The true vector is upwards, and now we have this downward effect, okay? But to stand outside that, if I now put it in that direction, now there would be somebody standing here, right? And this person would all have to slide, lose its momentum, and now come to here, and this would now be the new vector, right? That would now be down, okay? So, when I say up, I'm talking relative to us within it. It's pushing on our feet. It's an upward force towards our feet, right? Now, let's look at possible scenarios. So let's think about a solid arm, right? On a central point, right? And this is a rotational arm. So this arm's now going to rotate in that direction, right? Now if I put a little enclosure here, like such, right? Now we're looking from above this thing. Now in three-dimensional space, there is no vector, there's nothing, right? So within this I can now place little objects. I'll put in some water that has no form. It just, through its own surface tension, now we've got water in here, we've got a fluid, right? We've got liquid water, and we've got air, and we've got different things. None of this stuff is an orientation. No! If I now put that thing into motion at a set rate, it's going to come into contact with these things, and again, we're going to get a displacement of the water now. So now we've got a water level. Now we've got a opposite and equal. We've got an orientation now towards the earth. Now, depending on how long you make the arm and the containment, this thing could be set at a set, say 100 miles per hour, right? And that's just going to keep going at 100 miles an hour. So however long that's going to take, however long you make the radius of that, is going to dictate how long it takes to do one full rotation, right? These are things we can talk about differently. I'm only showing you possibilities and where my thoughts are, right? So in a scenario like this would give us what we witness on Earth. It would give us that directionality. I'm not saying the thing's rotating at 1,000 miles per hour, right? If it's going at 100 miles an hour, it could be however long it is, and it takes, you know, however long it's going to take to do one rotation. That's math, we can work that out. That's for mathematicians, no for me, I'm not a mathematician, right? So now we can see, so let's just put it back this way, right, so it's easier for people to understand. Right, we've got the same arm now, we've got objects in here, and it has no orientation, it has no vector. Now we put it into motion, we start pushing, or the mechanism that makes it move puts it into motion. Now we're going to get the compression, water now displaces. It's being met by something that can push it and resist it, and it constantly pushes against it, because weight is a constant here, right? Water being level is a constant, right? It's there, it's displaced already. Then we get the compression of air, we get the density layers. The rate of everything, the rate of this going in its rotation sets the weight of a particular matter, right? So if I'm a man that weighs 18 stone, right, and my weight's dictated by this motion that's going at 100 miles per hour, right? If I was then to slow the rate of that motion down, my weight's going to decrease. All of a sudden I'm going to be able to jump higher, I'm going to be able to jump farther, okay? I'm going to be able to achieve certain things. If it was to remain at half that speed for 6 months, what's going to happen to my body is that the muscle is going to deteriorate. My bone density is probably going to deteriorate because now I'm not having to support that, what we call weight. If after 6 months I was to speed it back up to the initial 100 miles per hour, all of a sudden I'm going to feel really heavy. I'm then again have to start a process of building my muscle structure up in order to support that weight. Same experiment, if I was to reduce the speed to 50 miles per hour and I countered that by adding mass to my body, like putting a backpack on with weight in it, and I carried that around to give me the same weight that I had in the first place because I've just added more mass although the speed's different, then I could maintain the muscle structure that I have. And when it's put back into motion, I'm going to feel the increase in weight, but if I then remove the added weight that I put onto my body, I'm going to feel back to the way I was before. Things start to become very simple. So that's a rotational arm, like it's moving rotationally and we're being pushed against this party here because it's constantly pushing. And it would be a constant change in direction which would denote an acceleration. Okay? Another possibility. And this possibility is one that I have issues with. This possibility would be like a centrifugal type thing. So we've got this, but now like a bucket type scenario, right? We've got this. So this would now be swinging around here, and this now would be our direction of down. And everybody knows what a centrifugal is. You feel that if you rotate something, there's an outward push towards the base here. So in that scenario, right, we would get the vector. However, this would denote to me again that there must be an acceleration towards here, which we don't witness. If this was in a rotation and I dropped something there, would the centrifugal effect be enough to carry it and push it towards the base? Tests that we can try. I have issues with that. Okay? I have shown other possibilities. Let me see. Let me just come off of this until I get this up here. Just get rid of the adverts when I show you it. Right. And let's look at a system possibility like this. So in this scenario, I would propose we would be on the face of this, and this would be the thing that's in motion giving us our vector. Now, if you were in a pod like this, going through this, you would see some sort of toroidal field for the magnet. There would be 90 degrees to that, an electric charge, right? But motion would be the thing that gives us the vector in this scenario. So remember, we would now be on the face of this. That's what would give us our direction. Again, this is like a visual example to show the possibilities of what the motion could be. Right? And in motions like this, it would work. Because again, there would be a deceleration of letting objects go. Constant uniform motion, setting, dictating weight, being a constant, these types of things. Okay? So as I say, here, look, we're incorporating and looking at magnetism, static, electricity, these types of things. Not just admitting it all, right? Again, without motion, we don't have any of these things in the first place. But this, again, is just another visual representation. Or, you know, we're in some sort of linear, uniform, straight line motion, being powered by something that we don't know, we don't comprehend. Again, I am not the one that can put limits on that. I do not know enough about outside our reality, what created our reality, what the prime mover is. And again, that clues in the title, the prime mover, right? The Big Bang. Because, again, you would have needed a Big Bang or an initial motion at the beginning in order to set the conditions, because we witness those conditions here on Earth. It's already displaced. Your gradient's there. Water's displaced, showing you a horizontal surface. But this is where we could progress to having these discussions about the possibilities of the motion. But right now, the knee-jerk reactions and the refusal are still there, because people, again, are still operating from their presupposition. And they're the people that have to address their presupposition and display that they're removing the bias and that they can step up to the plate and have objective, reasoned discussions about what we're witnessing here in reality. That's all that people like me are asking for. I'm not running to these people saying, ha, look, this is proved conclusively. No, I'm saying, look, there's a claim of acceleration. There's a claim buoyancy and density. There's these claims. Now we're showing through practical that these claims are not correct. I don't want to sit here arguing with trolls. It serves me no purpose, gives me no joy, just annoys me. If you're serious and you want to have productive, progressive discussion, I would be enthused by that, because that's what I'm about. Well, that's it, Mick. You know, it is exciting. But when you limit yourself to a presupposition, a bias, then you're not serving yourself. It's just a waste, total waste. All these human beings are trying to put limitations on what reality is and how it functions, and I don't get that part. I just don't comprehend what's going on. And back to the part about, you know, deliberately trying to avoid... I'm not trying to avoid any religious scriptures. I'm not interested in them. That's a projection, because obviously these people have a religious bias, and in their perception, their religion teaches them that the earth's stationary, although Andrew, who is a man of religion, has demonstrated that it doesn't make that claim anywhere. There's no claim to the earth being stationary. No, Meryl, that's fair enough. People don't quite know what to do with it yet, but they have to take responsibility that that knee-jerk reaction has a knock-on effect, and they've created a whole drama attacking me, the man, while they're reversing that and saying that it's me that's created that. It's not me that's created it. The chronology's there for everybody to see. I never brought this topic to the table by attacking people. I'm attacking their claims when I say, you know, retarded stationary flat earthers, because it's a retarded claim. I'm not saying they're retarded or attacking their being or any of that. Their claims are retarded, demonstrably so. But I'm big enough that I can take that sort of abuse, because I know that eventually people will go over their ego, will go over their knee-jerk reaction, and they'll start to actually pay attention, like I witnessed with Zach, Good Times for All, when he had a light bulb moment of deceleration, which again showed me that he never paid attention in the first place, which is worrying. Who are you listening to? So getting back. When we're on Earth, right, and we're standing here, and we're holding a vessel, and in that vessel, right, we've got air here at the top and we've got water, and what we have is, you know, an air bubble that's on its way up, and we have a denser object that's now on its way down, right? If I then accelerate that up the way, that motion of down and up, the rate increases, it gets faster. If I do accelerate it down the way, an inversion happens where the water now moves to here and the air is now here. The air bubble in this scenario, which was going up the way, is now wanting to go that direction. And the dense material which was sinking in this orientation now wants to go in that direction. And that's true in, at 360 degrees, any direction you want to go in, you can recreate that condition. And you can set the conditions depending on how fast you're moving the frame of reference. Okay? Demonstrable. Exactly, man. If you let it go, it equilibrates. There's no buoyancy, there's no density, there's no weight. You know, in these scenarios, let me go back to the whiteboard just to show that people are clear on it. You know, when I'm holding that air bubble rises, the dense material sinks, and if I invert it and accelerate it towards the earth, we get an inversion where the air bubble now wants to go this way and that wants to sink that way. Now, if we're just up at height and we let the thing go, right? The air bubble that's rising and the thing that's sinking now cease. The motion stops. If I'm at elevation and I reach out and I catch it again, now I'm applying the upward thrust to it, so now the motion of the vector begins again. Okay? It's very, very, very simple. And things start to make much more sense once you actually accept reality and what it's demonstrating for you. Claims of a stationary Earth with a downward flow of some kind, then we must witness acceleration, displacement of gas and liquids. We must also witness an increase and an inversion of the buoyancy and density, because that's what happens. Remember, people are claiming acceleration. We demonstrate what acceleration looks like, any direction, including towards the Earth, and you see the effects that ensue from an acceleration towards the Earth. Why would you ignore that? That is your claim. We're showing you, you're too lazy to actually show acceleration towards the Earth. You just keep using circular reasoning that that's what's happening with nothing demonstrable to demonstrate. We accelerate it towards the Earth, an inversion, water goes to there, air goes to here, air bubbles now want to go that direction, dense materials now want to go that direction. But when I'm standing holding it, they want to go the opposite direction. Because this is showing you the already upwards acceleration. Now again, as I've pointed out, when I say upwards, relative to us within it. This should put an end to all these misconceptions, misrepresentations. These people are still operating from their emotional reaction. You know, Stuart Mackenzie, I don't know why you're even getting involved, and I've highlighted your position. Your position is very, very clear. It's an absurdity. So for any of these people, you know, Globebusters or anybody else that wants to talk about this, I would encourage you to speak to me directly about it. Because I comprehend it. I'm the one that brought it to the table. Yes, Glenn Salk, yes, atmosphere must be contained because he's established that gas pressure requires a container. Well, you know, directional vectors require motion. It's the antecedent, just like the antecedent to gas pressure is a container. A directional vector requires motion. I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. There's an object. An object in three-dimensional space. What's its direction? What are you requiring in order to give it a direction? Huh? What gives it a vector? Well, that's right, motion. So whatever way it's put into motion, whether it be that way, oh well, no, that's its vector. No, there's an opposite to that, which is that. Because the only way for us to have a vector is to witness things that are in motion. That's what a vector is. Something has to be moving in a direction. Motion. The antecedent to a directional vector is motion. And that's the problem, Natalie. This is why it's so difficult to have any progress. You know, because they're starting from a presuppositional model. Stationary flat earth, globe earth, or whatever other preconceived model they have. And then they witness things and say, oh, well, that's fallen to the earth. My stationary earth. So then they enter into all sorts of, you know, nonsense trying to explain how that could be the case. It's put in motion by word salad, exactly. All these people that say, I don't experience movement, you know, the water's all displaced, there's a gradient, there's a buoyancy and density motion vector, you feel your own weight. I mean, how much of an experience do you require in order to recognise that you're in motion? Motion is what creates a vector, boom me. Static things, think about it. Stationary anything doesn't have a direction to it. It has no direction, it's just stationary. You say, oh, my cup's stationary. No, your cup's at rest. It's being resisted by something solid. The cup wants to be stationary, but it's not stationary right now, it's at rest. If you look inside, you see the fluid displaced because it's in motion. You should address the cause of this upward motion How can you claim to be interested in your objective reality? See, regardless anybody's claims or models, nobody can get outside of the reference frame of Earth. Stop being an absolute imbecile. This is the same rhetoric as a globe earther saying, if your Earth's flat, what's underneath it? It's an idiotic non sequitur. It's just gibberish. What's moving the Earth? The prime mover. There you go. The prime mover's the thing that's causing the motion. Whatever that is. If you can't get outside of the world, then the world doesn't exist because you don't know what made it and how it is the way it is. I can put you in any moving reference frame and you're going to know that you're in a moving reference frame. Because there's going to be a directional vector to that motion and you're going to be able to witness it. I don't have to establish I'm in a moving reference frame by knowing the cause of the motion. This is back to a murder never happened because I know there's a dead body there and there's blood splat all up the wall and there's somebody that's dead with lacerations all over their body, but the murder never happened because I do not know the motive. I do not know the cause of that. Idiocy, total and utter buffoonery, desperation of people clinging to their bias and sounding utterly insane. You're not capable of reasoning with somebody like me. Up your game. I would love a group, people to start getting together and talking about this lend me a tenner, because that's how we progress. I can sit with Marty, me and Marty can sit and we can talk about all sorts of possibilities and blah blah blah, and there's never any tension. Do you know why? Because none of the two of us have a bias. None of the two of us are sitting there from some egotistical bias trying to make the world fit our little derpy fucking, bias. We can talk about things objectively because we're not invested in what reality should be or could be or what it actually is. We're just trying to find a process of establishing what it actually is. That's the difference. So I would be totally enthused by human beings that can get together and discuss things objectively, rationally, reasonably, without having to wade through the frustrating idiocy that's been brought to me here. Exactly, Rachie. Cause of upward motion doesn't need to be determined in order to know it's moving. Exactly. Like I said, if I put any of these people in a sealed container and accelerated it in any direction, they are going to know exactly that they're moving in a particular direction because they're going to be pushed to the opposite of the way it's moving. That's exactly their reasoning, the Bristolian. The dead person isn't dead because we don't know how they died. This is the brain farts that these people are entering into because they're just emotionally refusing. They don't even have the capacity to comprehend what's being shown to them. They've not even reached that far yet. They're still at the knee-jerk reaction. Oh, I don't like it. And they're being encouraged by certain players within this whole thing that are deliberately trying to create that. That's why I say it's pointless taking second-hand information. Don't listen to second-hand information. Go direct to the source. See what the source is actually offering, and then you'll have clarity. And you won't be filled with muddy water. Yes, you did, the Bristolian. 4.5 gold stars for you on the fridge. Well done. You win the world, as Marty would say. Sorry, I need to go and perform a function. I'll be back in a wee second. Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This notion of it must be accelerating, it's total nonsense. You know, again, that, you know, buoyancy and density, air rising, something sinking. If the Earth was continually getting faster and faster, then that would get faster and faster and faster. It would be ridiculous. It's total gibberish. You know, people say, "Oh, you go to altitude and your weight's different." Well, what's the parameters? What's the margin there? Because remember, when we're standing here, we've got air that's been compressed down on top of us as well, which has a weight to it. And if you go up through that, then there's going to be a pressure decrease. So that's your weight's going to be slightly varied because you've not got that mass bearing on you as you move up through it. So, you know, your weight's a constant. If I weigh 8 grams of gold here, and I go to fucking Brazil, it's going to be 8 grams of fucking gold. And accelerating, you know, something that's getting faster and faster and faster. I could sit and watch my gold increasing its weight. I'd be a fucking millionaire within 10 minutes. It's retarded. This is just naysayers throwing stuff in. Oh, it would have to be accelerating with absolutely no valid reasoning whatsoever. Just saying it. Not by a uniform constant. When we let things go, the thing loses its momentum. So to the observer, they just think that gets faster towards the Earth. No. It's just losing its momentum. The higher up you are, the more loss of momentum there is, giving you the appearance that it's getting faster because you're coming towards it quicker. That's how it appears to you. That's not the reality. Just like train tracks appear to converge, the sky appears to come down, the floor appears to come up, parallel lines appear to converge. Appear. Not the actual way it is, appears to be. When we get into the physics, we can show that your appearance of things accelerating are not true. Gas and liquid don't displace. Buoyancy and density motion vector ceases to be. Well, the land we live on's in motion, lend me a tenner, that's all I know. How that looks from the outside, I do not know. I gave examples of, you know, the possibilities. the rotation of the Earth. Centripetal force. There's no such thing as centripetal force. There's a centrifugal effect due to rotation, right? But what they talk about centripetal is something that goes in towards the centre of a point of rotation, which is fucking nonsense, unless it's like a toroid, like a vortex going into a central point, right? What they're talking about is tension. So if I'm holding a rope and I swing it, the effect that's felt on the outside of that is what we call the centrifugal. But this tension towards the central point, they call centripetal. It's just tension. That's it. There's no centripetal effect. It's bollocks. You don't rotate something and stuff moves to the centre. Unless you've got an inversion, like a vortex type setting. It's fucking nonsense. Again, these people don't even know what they're spouting. They're just saying words. You need to demonstrate that there's a weight decrease. So you're trying to tell me that if I go to Glasgow Airport right now and I want to go on an aircraft and I've got a set weight that I'm allowed, that being my body and my goods, that if I fly to the equator, what, it's now less or more? Are you retarded? Are you saying I can buy gold here and then go to the fucking equator and it's going to be more or less? Are you daft? Are you fucking daft? So the terminal velocity thing, going back to this scenario, let me see here. So we go back to the terminal velocity thing. So again, we've got enclosed, we've got a system that's in motion, right? And that upward motion or that upward thrust is that way, right? So, if we're up at a high enough altitude, say we've got a platform, right? And we hang out and we let go of an object, right? Now, if we're doing 100 miles an hour, right, in that direction, that means everything within it's doing 100 miles an hour. So when I let that go, remember the air is still trying to push up on it. So it's still trying to keep it at the rate of motion of the reference frame, right? But it can't, because it can't support it. So that immediately starts a process of deceleration. Given a long enough time, that object is going to come to what would be terminal velocity, which would be true stationary. But it will never get to true stationary, because as long as there's air still pushing up on it, that air is still going to have an effect on it, ever so slightly, still putting it in motion. So if you're standing out here, right, and you're watching this happening, right, and I let that go, to the person here immediately that looks as if it goes down. But if that person had like these lines on the back marker here, what they would see is that thing still goes up. Relative to them looking at it, that would still be going up, but it'd be losing its momentum. And the appearance within it would be that it immediately goes down the way. But no, it'd still be moving up. It'd just be losing its momentum until it came to true stationary. And if you had a long enough, zone where nothing solid could resist it, then that would come to true stationary. So then when the Earth impacts it, that would be the maximum impact that there possibly could be. That's what terminal velocity is. Terminal, ending, no more velocity, loss of momentum, zero, zilch, no motion. That's why it's called terminal velocity. No, maximum velocity. Fastest velocity. Terminal. End of. No more. Okay? Oh, so it's just not really accountable, right, it's ever so minuscule and blah blah blah. Well, again, you know, we can look at that in difference to, you know, if there's a containment, what are the walls shaped like? If I go to the outer edges, I've got less bearing down on me, so my weight might decrease a little. If I move into the centre, I've got more bearing down on me, so my weight might increase ever so slightly, it's imperceptible. We could talk about these things. But what you don't get to is to invoke gibberish about imaginary pulling forces, mathematical concepts known as gravity. These things are conceptual. Acceleration of gas, liquids and solids at the same rate with no displacement are conceptual. They're founded from a mathematical position. Conceptual. They're not founded from reality, because in reality when we accelerate gas and liquid we see displacement. So these people that are advocating for an acceleration of no displacement of gas and liquid are advocating for it from a position of mathematics, purely language-based. I, however, am coming from a position of practical, physical, physics. Acceleration denotes that there's a displacement of gas and liquid, provable 100% of the time. So what do we listen to? Mathematical concepts, back to the globe rhetoric again, or do we go with the practical and what it shows us? That's your choice. These people that continue to invoke acceleration of gas, liquids and solids are doing it from words, not from practical. So anybody claiming a stationary Earth are claiming an acceleration towards it with no displacement of gas and liquid, and they're claiming that purely from a mathematical position, a word, language-based position, not from a practical. From the word-based position, I can come up with all sorts of fucking nonsensical gibberish to explain away things that I don't like. From a practical position, you do not have any grounds, you have no leeway for that. The practical is the practical. Cold, hard, factual. These people are trying to argue their hypotheses, their presuppositions against the facts. You don't get to behave like that. That's just not on. You're a wordsmith, a magician, a manipulator, a liar. Boom me Dale, air pressure requires a container, but a moving earth suggests the air is not contained within the earth. Of course it is. Of course it is. And just as I've said, the reasoning that's used is that, well, we understand that air, higher pressure needs containment from lower pressure, else equilibrium would happen. Yes, apply that reasoning now to a directional vector, weight. The antecedent to that is motion. Same as the antecedent to gas pressure is a container, the antecedent to a directional vector is fucking motion. But this is where the hypocrisy starts to happen. There's Marty with his dad jokes. Pens and pencils do not move no matter what, they will always be stationary. Because there's less matter bearing down on you, Mr. Sensible. Why do you think the pressure decreases when you move up through a pool of water? Is it because there's no any water at the top of the body of water? No, it's because as you move down there's more bearing down on you. And again, that pressure has a cause. So again, something that's been pressured in water from a position of being held on the earth and then let go, that pressure vanishes. The pressure's only there because of the upward thrust, given a compression downwards, a displacement. So we feel that compression. That's why buoyant things go up and more dense things go down. Once the upward thrust is no longer present or cannot be felt, or something solid enough to push on it, all that disappears immediately. Gone. Vanished. I wonder what's going on here. Does it take a fucking genius to work that out? Seems to be this correlation between something solid and attached to the earth that can resist this, creating this motion of buoyancy and density, but yet when it's put in free fall, that no longer is present. Correlation. No. Let's not go there. Let's invoke mathematical gibberish. Fuck off. Because the aeroplane's its own reference frame. The aeroplane's constantly up, pushing upwards. Right? And the cabin's pressurised in there. It's its own little reference frame, still having to apply upward thrust. Because when it doesn't apply the upward thrust and it just switches the engines off all of a sudden, you've not got any orientation. That brings in the other point. You hear people talking about when they skydive, they feel there's no orientation. You shut your eyes and you don't know what direction you're going. And it feels like time stands still, which would lead on to another thing about time. I'm going to keep answering the same stuff and talking about the same stuff until people grasp it, until it's been established. Because I'm not going to let reality go by the wayside in favour of people's mathematical presuppositions. It's not going to happen in my watch. The air is only got weight because there's an upward thrust compressing it, pushing against it. Go and weigh yourself in mid-air, you fruitcake. Right, there's been enough material here within this to show it concisely and clearly. So, for these people that run about sending emails, well, let them know that I'm addressing them. Hopefully they'll pay attention to me and know what other people are saying. And then they'll be clear on the position that I hold and what I'm actually proposing. Then we can have discussions about what we're proposing and things that we could maybe test in order to establish certain things. And more minds are better than one. Okay? Hopefully that's what happens from this. I'm certainly not the one that's being divisive. Right. I'll just check quick. Nobody asked to join me. What a surprise. But yet, they can all organise little fucking hangouts with each other, but they'll not come and speak to me for some unbeknownst reason. Hopefully, we get somewhere. Anyhow, take care of yourselves, people. I'll see you very soon.